Hello, PancakeSwap community. I don't know if you are on the same page like me, but I'm completely in love with that video that our design team created. It's amazing. And yeah, let's get started. For the ones who don't know me, I'm Jeffran, PancakeSwap community manager and your host today. Welcome back to a new AMA in the PancakeSwap kitchen. I'm very glad and very happy to be you again. It's been so long since we met last time, and here we are to chat about the latest update that we have announcement that PancakeSwap have announcement PancakeSwap before. Um, Before it's the biggest update to the DEX so far for us, and it won't be happening exactly now, but but later today. It's not easy to understand if you are a regular user. Even for me as a community manager, sometimes it's not super easy to understand. But it's something that requires quite a bit of study and dedication to understand, to be honest. And that's precisely why we decided to do this AMA with the entire community to answer all of your questions. Really good ones, by the way. Thanks for that. I'm not alone, of course. I'm not going to be the one that will answer all those difficult questions. Um, I'm here with me. It's a super well-known member of the PancakeSwap kitchen, the man who guides PancakeSwap to reach new heights. Our head chef, Chef Mochi. Hey Mochi, how are you doing today?
Hey friend, very good. And hi community. Hope everyone's doing well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
okay, yeah. So let me just speak to everyone for a bit. So hi, hey community. Good to see everyone again. So I hope you guys liked the video that friend played just now, and I hope that you all were pleasantly surprised by our V4 announcement. So we kept this development under wraps for a really very long time, and I'm very excited to have finally announced it with the team. So with V4, a huge upgrade is coming to PancakeSwap in the third quarter of 2024. And so I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions, and that's what we're here today for, to answer as many as we can. So before we go into the Q&A, and I see that there are a lot of questions. Uh, I'd like to say that the kitchen has spent a significant amount of resources and effort into V4, and this has been our biggest project so far. If you look at our previous roadmaps, we haven't actually announced that we were doing V4 for at all. But actually, this has been something that we've been working on for many, many months. In fact, this started in Q3 2023 actually. And V4 is so big that the upgrade is not fully designed yet. And so many additional upgrades and tweaks will happen between now and the third quarter of 2024. And so today I will answer as many questions as I can, but I hope you will bear with me that today I won't be able to concretely answer all the questions, as some of the questions that you guys have raised, we are still actually testing and refining these things as we get V4 to a stage where it can be deployed and used.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks. You sound excited about it. I can I can realize that. So yeah, I'm so excited too. This is kind of a huge thing, and a lot of things need to be addressed in all the corners. So yeah, before we started, as usual, this AMA will be divided in two parts. First, we will answer all the questions you have left for us when we announce the AMA in the form, and then we will move to the live question in case there are any. If you are watching this from YouTube, you can leave your question directly in the comment section, and we will pick them up from there. And if you are watching this, for example, from Twitter, you can reply the tweet with a question, or if you don't want to reply to it, you can put a question everywhere with the PancakeSwap with the hashtag PancakeAMA, and we will pick them up from there and answer at the end. In case we have time, we don't know how much time how long it will take this AMA. And as a friendly reminder, remember to use these spaces to clear all of your doubts. And always after this session ends, we will push the AMA recap for those who couldn't tune in live. So yeah, let's get started. And this is a super nice question in terms of where are we stand with PancakeSwap before, and the question would be like, what key features differentiate PancakeSwap before from its previous versions like V3 and before V2? Sorry.
Sure thing. And Yeah, so today I'll be covering all the questions. Unfortunately, Chef Momo, who went to Eat London to represent us, is feeling a bit unwell. I guess the events were too long and very tiring. So I'll be answering all the questions today. So on what are the key differences between V4 and the current AMMs V3 and V2? So there are three key differences. The first is that it is now possible to extend liquidity pool functionalities through hooks. So hooks allow you to add features to liquidity pools. So this can be any feature that you can think of. I'll just give a few examples like limit orders, custom oracles, impermanent loss mitigation logics. So in V3 and V2, liquidity pools just hold tokens for you to trade, but in V4, the liquidity pool will now have the ability to execute complicated functionality. So that's the first difference, which will allow a lot of different forms of trading. The second difference is that with V4, you can now add any pricing curve with hooks on top. So V3 is an example of a AMM that's based on the concentrated liquidity AMM model. At V4, we will launch with two AMM curves at outset, which is the current V3 AMM as well as a liquidity book AMM that is different from the current V3 AMM. But additionally, we are able to add on more and more pricing curves that will allow you to trade different things like social tokens or to basically have new forms of tokens trade on PancakeSwap. The third difference is that, and I think this is one that would be very obvious to users, is that V4 is more gas efficient as compared to V3 and V2. And so users can expect significant reduction in gas fees both when you're trading and when you're providing liquidity on PancakeSwap. So high level, these are the three differences.
Nice, nice. You mentioned some things that I think, are in the ears from all the PancakeSwap users, like the gas efficient, the mitigation from impermanent loss. I'm sure there are more questions, and you you will need to give us more details. But starting from one of the key features that you mentioned, that for some people it's not easy to understand, which is hooks. So the second question will be, how does PancakeSwap before hooks feature improve users' trading experience?
Sure, of course. So, I would today narrow down hooks to just a few different classes of things that we think will happen first on V4 to make it easier to understand what might, be there to improve users' trading experience. So, from a trader's perspective, on PancakeSwap V4, you can choose from unlimited fee tiers, which when you're trading may lower the net cost of your trading, giving you more tokens. And the fact that there's various AMM models can result in better execution price for your trades. And then for hooks, we do think a class of hooks that will come early on PancakeSwap V4 will be features that look like what you currently have on centralized exchanges. So, for example, time-weighted average price model orders, which is basically allowing you to execute a trade over, say a defined time of 20 to 30 minutes. Therefore, if you have a big trade, you can just split it up over, 20 minutes to trade it. Things like limit and stop loss orders, which are, very commonly seen in Web2, TradFi platforms as well as centralized exchange platforms. We do think fee rebate programs where hooks are measuring what are high volume traders and giving them rebates on fees will also appear on V4 as hooks. So these are features that are currently not available on V3 or V2 because the functionality doesn't allow for it. But um, in V4, you will start to see these hooks appear and make your trading experience more varied and more fine tuned. And so in V3, you couldn't do any of these aside from swapping assets from one asset to another asset at a very good price. And so V4 hooks will improve users' trading experience in this manner.
Well, it's in theory, it's amazing. I mean, when you mention all of these things, of course, we are used to think about a sex, with all the KYC and all the things that we know that we don't like, and that's why we use edX. And doing it on the blockchain, it sounds challenging. So yeah, keep super excited, and I hope the PancakeSwap community is on the same level. And more like for the devs, what are the potential use case for developers? Maybe it's kind of related with the question that you already answered, but what are the potential use cases for developers and users of this hooks feature?
Yeah, so from a developer's perspective, the use cases are really about solving existing pain points that users are having with V2 or V3 or any other DEX, and adding features that improve user experience. So as I mentioned previously, these can be things like impermanent loss mitigation, MEV mitigation, replicating centralized exchange features, uh, also, things like automated liquidity management. You could use hooks to develop features that manage liquidity on behalf of liquidity providers. And so, we think that these are all features that developers could do for users in V4. And we also hope to see some creative or more interesting use cases. So, for example, I think recently I came across something about dollar cost averaging on crypto, which I realized was somewhat popular with altcoins. And so, I do think users can also, if developers develop this for V4, that users can interact with more altcoins using things like dollar cost averaging.
Yes, I think dollar cost average. It's for those cowards like me that doesn't know how to trade at all. So yeah, DCA. It's like I will buy from time to time, and I will reach the same amount, but in time. Yeah, it's a nice feature to forget and not trying to play the trader anymore. Thinking about doing that on the blockchain is mind blowing for me. Another question that I think it's maybe the person who wrote this tried to ask different, but the question said that why releasing PancakeSwap before on both Ethereum and BNB chain? Maybe the question would be why first those chains. I don't know. Can you tell us?
Sure. So I think, yeah, the question maybe, I wasn't too sure if the question was asking this, but just in case people think so, I just wanted to clarify that we are not going to release PancakeSwap v4 only on Ethereum and BNB chain. Uh, in fact, over time, we expect to roll it out to all chains. So the thing with PancakeSwap v4 is that it requires an upgrade at the blockchain level. For blockchains, they need to have this upgrade, which I will call transient storage. And PCS v4 will need transient storage in order to work. So what transient storage does is that it's a feature that previously I mentioned. PCS v4 has reduced gas fee. So this part of reduced gas fee requires transient storage to happen, and so this feature will decrease deploying new pools by 99% gas cost. And so at the time of the announcement, we know that Ethereum had just implemented the transient storage on mainnet, and BNB chain, because we're speaking with them, we are aware that the transient storage upgrade is queued for around April. And so based on the knowledge that we had at that time, we announced that we will be releasing PancakeSwap v4 concurrently on Ethereum and BNB chain. However, this transient storage upgrade, I think, is something that all EVM chains will have. And so we expect to be deploying PancakeSwap v4 to all the chains that we are on eventually when that upgrade is available on these chains.
Nice. Thanks for clarifying. It's good to see that we are going to be at least in all the EVM chains with PancakeSwap before. That will enhance a lot the user experience, since if we are replicating our our new feature in all of those chains. This next question would be like, will issues like market makers are not available right now or unable to provide a quote when they try to swap will these issues be addressed in PancakeSwap before?
Yeah, so the market maker upgrade that PancakeSwap did late last year is not part of PancakeSwap V3 or V4. So the development of V4 will not affect this. But just to answer the question about the MMs being not available sometimes or being unable to provide a quote, we do acknowledge that the MMs that we have currently sometimes don't respond with quotes in some select instances. And so there is an upgrade to the MM infrastructure that we're working on right now, which we haven't yet announced, that will accommodate more market makers to ensure that there is at least one market maker which is available or quoting throughout a 24-hour period. So hopefully this enables users to be trading with MMs over 99.9% uptime in the coming year.
Thanks for clarifying. You mentioned something that, of course, will be addressed in other question. How does the no price impact feature in PancakeSwap before liquidity book pools benefit traders, and how is this achieved?
Sure. So headline no price impact is achieved through the design of the liquidity book AMM. So the liquidity book AMM has, I guess mathematically is based on the X plus Y equals to K model. But what, realistically, I think to explain what happens is that when you provide liquidity, the price ranges in the liquidity book AMM model uh, creates what we call bins. And so when a bin is somewhat, you can think of it as like a very small price range. And so when a trader is swapping liquidity that exists within that bin, so within a single price range, then the single price of execution that a trader gets is constant throughout that bin. And so if you are executing a trade that doesn't use up the entire bin's worth of liquidity, you will then be able to trade at the exact price for your entire trade. And so because you are then able to get the same price for your entire trade, you therefore have no price impact. And so this is somewhat different from the popular concentrated liquidity AMM model, which is our V3 model, that always has tiny bits of slippage for your trades. So hopefully that explains how V4 has no price impact for certain trades.
Well, thanks, Mochi. It's kind of all is kind of new and all is kind of scaring, but the objective sounds super sweet. And talking about objectives, what are the main goals and objectives of PancakeSwap before development team?
Yeah, so as the development team, we are focused on enabling developers and protocols to build on PancakeSwap v4 and to provide the best experience possible for liquidity providers. So we are doing this by making the v4 development architecture flexible and modular so that you can always, quote unquote, upgrade the decks by having more AMM curves, by having new hooks, so that there will always be more products and features that may not necessarily need the PancakeSwap team to keep building, upgrades into v4. And so this collaborative effort that is one of our main goals uh, is to help achieve much more within the DeFi space. And so at this moment, we are working on development tools, resources, educational content, and also attracting developers with our the development fund that we set up to support existing developers and to onboard new developers to our platform and to build together on PancakeSwap v4.
Great, great. If you are hearing this and you are a dev, I suggest you and I encourage you to check all of the blogs to see how can you onboard in PancakeSwap before and start building with us. It's amazing, and I will use this space again, to remind you, in case you have any questions, you can drop it in the comment sections on YouTube, on Twitter, using the hashtag PancakeAMA on Twitter, so we can pick your question up quickly, and it will be all answered at the end. So yeah, let's continue. How do the before changes aim to increase PancakeSwap DEX market share?
Yeah, so we think that PancakeSwap V4 can increase DEX market share by the array and the potential of V4. So with V4, as you may have heard, like we are building a lot of optionality for new features that you can use within V4, whether you're a liquidity provider or a trader. And so there's a lot of innovation possible within the space. And this is not just limited to the AMM that is being extended. Now, different products can be integrated into PancakeSwap V4 via hooks and our modular pool manager as well. And so, in the midterm, we do think that hooks and products will be deployed kind of in a cross product fashion, where there will be integrations of one PancakeSwap product to another PancakeSwap product via either the pool manager or hooks, so that as a user you might be, for example, trading on a pool, and then it might call onto the position manager, to manage that liquidity that you just swapped into. So you will see that there will be more uses for PancakeSwaps AMM, and with more use, we expect more uh, TVL to come onto PancakeSwap because of all the increased amount of trading that happens. And we also think that there will be more trading volume as a result of this, and uh, all this will contribute to increasing PancakeSwap's DEX market share.
Nice. It's all a virtuous cycle that never ends. Love it. And you talk about this a little bit in I think in two questions before. But how will the open source licensing of PancakeSwap before foster collaboration and community contribution within the DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think for us, PancakeSwap, we decided to make V4's code completely open source, and we did this with the aim of allowing protocols to either work on our V4 very openly, or if they feel that they want to do so, to even improve upon PancakeSwap V4's code base if they really want to fork it and run their own version of a V4. So we see PancakeSwap V4 as the kitchen's contribution to DeFi in general. And we would love to see any protocols find ideas that can continue to improve on our V4. So the licensing regime of PancakeSwap V4 ensures that if a protocol forks V4 and they use our V4 as their base, then they must keep their DEX code open source as well. That means that every participant in DeFi, including the kitchen, will be able to benefit from future improvements if they use our code as a base.
Nice. Thanks, Mochi. Future is multi-chain and open source. No doubts about that. Okay, this is nice. And changing a little bit the side from the question comes, and what will be the effect on cake inflation once the new before changes are applied?
Sure. So this is something I think that so maybe let me put it this way. One of the main focuses that PancakeSwap V4 has, and this is one of our main focuses, is to reduce the negative return bias for liquidity providers, which when they suffer impermanent loss. So for those of you who know, impermanent loss is a kind of perpetual issue on the liquidity provider side, which makes them more hesitant to provide liquidity to XAMMs. So with V4, once we achieve our goal of reducing the effects of impermanent loss for LPs, we then expect LPs to be able to enjoy more trading fees, and definitely beyond what they are losing via impermanent loss now. So as a result of the higher trading fees that LPs enjoy, we do expect to reduce cake emissions to these liquidity pools that enjoy the improved trading returns. And so on the net basis, at the protocol level, we do think with many of these pools enjoying higher trading fees that overcome impermanent loss, we do expect that cake emissions will be reduced across the board.
Nice, nice. More trading fees and then less emissions. Okay, I think it's a win-win for every participant in PancakeSwap right now. So yeah, thanks for addressing this. It's all good news. It seems it's all good news. It's uh, crazy how how I'm amazed with this. I hope the community is understanding what are you telling, and yeah, let's continue building and continue with the questions. And this is kind of difficult even for me. Let's see if you can explain us a little bit. How does PancakeSwap before address the issue of impermanent loss for liquidity providers?
Sure. So I'll try to keep this high level. V4 is fairly flexible to adopt a number of ways to resolve the impermanent loss problem. So the most promising way that we are seeing right now is via a form of a dynamic fee, where basically you are passing on uh, additional fee charged to swappers, to liquidity providers, and therefore reducing the impermanent loss suffered by liquidity providers. But we do think that it is an open space, and that anyone could come up with a novel solution to tackle the impermanent loss issue. So for the version of the dynamic fee that will help liquidity providers, we have developed something that, based on historical simulations, we see that liquidity providers will enjoy up to double current their trading fee APY across several different market scenarios, whether it's a volatile environment where tokens are moving a lot, uh, or when tokens are not moving that much, and that prices are fairly flat across the board. But this is something that we're still working on the details. And I do appreciate your patience, but we will review more details soon on this point.
You're telling me that impermanent loss it's going to be addressed. So I give you all of my patience as a liquidity provider to find the best way to address it. So thanks a lot, Mochi. There are still some questions on the run. Remember to drop your questions. I saw EOS, one of our dev ambassadors, was answering some of them. So if you still have a question, please drop it in the comment section so we can address it if EOS wasn't faster than us. And to continue, this is people excited as me for more timelines. What is the expected timeline for the full rollout of PancakeSwap before on Ethereum and BNB chain at least?
Yep. So we are, expecting, as I mentioned, to roll out on Ethereum BNB chain in Q3 concurrently. So I think much of this will depend on our audits, because V4 is very new in the market, and so we will be auditing this very extensively. And simultaneously, we are speaking with BNB chain to make sure that their transition storage upgrade is ready before we are ready, so that we can deploy PancakeSwap V4 and Ethereum and BNB chain both on Q3. And we do understand that they are currently doing their upgrade in around April. So I think this is, largely not an issue for us to be able to deploy on Q3.
Great, great. We are hungry for leaks. Of course, we're hungry for leaks. This is also, I think, the next one, some high-level question. For which reasons are the pools, such as concentrated liquidity AMM and liquidity book, designed?
Sure. I'll just walk through a bit of the kind of differences in the AMM. So the concentrated liquidity AMM, or the PancakeSwap V3 style AMM, is the most popular AMM model at this point, but it does have a few drawbacks. One of which is high exposure to impermanent loss, and also the current AMM model has high gas fees. the liquidity book AMM model solves the impermanent loss issue to some extent when you are trading within a price bin. But it doesn't fully solve all issues as well. So each model has its own drawbacks, and we chose to launch these two at the start just to show the community and all traders out there that PancakeSwap V4 is not just a single type of AMM, and to provide examples of what's possible if you extend PancakeSwap V4. I think over the long run, the AMM designs will improve and find models that may fully address existing AMM model drawbacks. And so, I think these are the ones that we launched are already sort of solving each other's issues and are good examples that represent popular curve types like the constant product curve and the constant sum curve.
Nice, nice, nice. The idea of being able to are more, even more models in the future is kind of super hyper great to continue being up to the date. How does the next one? How does the singleton model in PancakeSwap before help minimize gas costs for users?
Yeah, so the singleton model, to put it simply, is really putting all your liquidity pools in just one smart contract. So for those of you who have traded on PancakeSwap, especially for altcoins, when sometimes you have to do multi-hop trades or basically trades that go through multiple pools, right? So each of these were individual contracts. Each pair of liquidity is one contract, and so you had to route through many different contracts to get to your end token sometimes. Now, if you go through the singleton model, all your pools are just in one contract. And so you no longer have to incur gas costs from pool one to pool two, then pool two to pool three. In the singleton model, you will just have one contract where you give your tokens in, and then that same contract gives you whatever tokens you're supposed to get. And so minimizing the number of hops between different pools, or in this case, eliminating all hops to make it just a single transaction, reduces gas very significantly, and therefore users will then save on paying gas to trade on PancakeSwap V4.
Wow, taking into account all the last blockchain updates and the reduce of the gas fee costs, it seems that in the future it will be super super cheap for every user, and that's amazing. Thanks Mochi for giving some light on that. And continue talking about singleton, and I love this question. What role do singleton contracts play in enhancing the performance and security of PancakeSwap before? Since you mentioned there will be a lot of contracts just in one, people wants to know how about security about that.
Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, singleton model is a gas optimization technique to reduce gas spent when you're doing swaps and also actually deploying liquidity. So for security, unfortunately, the single model doesn't really enhance security. So yeah, singleton again is mostly focused on reducing gas costs for pool deployment, and also if you are doing multi-hop swaps for complicated swaps. So for performance, therefore it reduces gas, and it uses some other techniques like flash accounting. But basically, if you're doing multiple transactions together, we can all settle it in one transaction as well. So yeah, it does improve performance a lot. Yeah, but just to recap the point, security is not something that Singleton deals with.
Okay, thanks for clarify this. Okay, let's we have two questions more. So it's the time, if you haven't dropped your question, to do it now. I saw some questions have been answered by AOS, and yeah, let's give the last minutes to drop your question. And one of the two questions remaining will be, how will the new custom pool types in PancakeSwap before enhance listed asset pricing and improve, of course, the user experience?
Sure. So multiple pool types can support pricing for new asset classes that can come in the future. So these may not even exist today. And so they can improve upon and address drawbacks of existing AMM models like I described before. And so users will then uh, benefit from this because they have wide variety to choose from on all on a single DEX to meet their needs. So, for example, if you are a trader, you have a very large order. Maybe you want to sell $10 million of ETH at a single price point. You want to sell it today, or at I think ETH is at around $3,500. You can use the liquidity book AMM to try and achieve a zero slippage trade on your $10 million order. Now, of course, given that there is there must be a sufficient liquidity in that pool, in that bin, to give you a 10 million trade that had to allow you to trade without slippage, and you will be able to opt for a liquidity book over a concentrated liquidity AMM to execute this trade. So that provides a better experience for you as a large trader to use PancakeSwap V4. And then additionally, if there's a hook that exists, and typically I call this the TWAP hook, but basically if a hook that exists that can break up your 10 million dollar large order into multiple small orders, maybe $10,000 at a time. Even if the pool is one that doesn't have a lot of liquidity, in terms of TVL at the moment, with you splitting up your trade over a period of time and having smaller trade sizes, you may be able to trade a very large transaction like a 10 million order on the liquidity book AMM with almost no slippage. If you're willing to spend some amount of time to for that order to process. So from a user experience perspective, you're able to get much better trade execution than you are able to with PancakeSwap V3 right now.
Nice. I would love to try it. So if someone wants to send me 10 millions, I will try. I will. We can discuss it later. Okay, last question before we end with this section, and this is more like a business one. Could we can say? Will potential lower transaction fees challenge the profitability? I don't know if I say it okay of PancakeSwap.
Yeah, this is a great question for I think our tokenomics and the sustainability of PancakeSwap. So the answer is uh, it does not challenge the profitability of PancakeSwap, but it does affect it. So protocol revenue from swaps actually have come down since the introduction of V3, not V4. So this is actually to be expected, and I think is to be thought of as a sign of a maturing vertical. So with V2, a lot of the DEXs in the space had a trading fee of about 30 basis points for all trades, whether it's uh, a stable coin trade or a blue chip token like BTC or your random altcoins. However, now I think most of you are more familiar with trades that have a headline fee of only 1 or 5 basis points. So that's anywhere between 5 or 6 to 30 times cheaper than it was when V2 was the most common DEX model. And so with most returns going to LPs, definitely fees and the protocol revenue have come down as a matter of an order of magnitude. Now, despite me saying that, the kitchen is not really overly concerned about this. First, we have seen volumes increase quite significantly during this early phase of the bull market. And then with improved impermanent loss protection in V4, we do expect less cake to be emitted to farms. And so, if you guys remember, a lot of PancakeSwap's protocol is now spent on buying cake back from the market. If we are emitting less cake out in the future, then less protocol revenue is also needed to buy back and burn cake and keep cake deflationary. So therefore, overall, I think while we do expect headline profitability to fall, we don't think that this is a major issue for the protocol at all. And also, V4 creates the environment to create new functionality. And so with new functionality, there may be new sources of fees and protocol revenues as well.
Nice, nice. Thanks, Mochi. Thanks for all the time you spent with all of these questions. It was like a one-on-one, super super tough. And then we can go with the live questions. I saw some uh, in the comments. Let's grab some. Some of them have already been answered by our ambassador dev AOS, but I would like to address it again. Like, what can you say, Mochi, to a user who says that before he sees, and I agree with him, it's more complex for beginners, for retail users who are new in the crypto ecosystem?
Yeah, hey YP couple too. Thanks for the question. I think this is definitely something that we are very well aware of. So the initial trade-off of V4 is that with more flexibility and the ability to build on any kind of interesting functionality to swappers and liquidity providers, suddenly there are a lot of options for users to choose from. This of course then at first glance looks like it is very complex for beginner users. So I think this is a fair comment. And how we are looking at this issue is that we do think, although there may be 10 or 20 or 30 new functions developed in the early phase of V4, we don't think that we will simply just dump all these functions on users and let them figure out what to choose to do. Of course, a lot of these functions in the first place are for very special use cases. So for example, if there is a function that allows you to break up a large order, to be executed over one day, right? You're trading $10 million over one day. We wouldn't put that, into like an option for most users, since most users are not selling, $10 million of tokens, and so what I'm getting at is that we do think that most users will probably end up using a core maybe 3 to 5 functions. And what we are focused on is that for most users, for beginner users, you will not be pushed with a lot of all these new functionality to choose from, and that we will give you a fairly simple, fairly similar to what you have now with PancakeSwap, a very simple few buttons for you to click in order to execute trades. However, of course, with the additional functionality that comes, we do want to provide that to advanced users. And so there will be an interface, I think, that will house all this new special functionality for users with special requirements. And so I don't think you need to be too worried. For beginner users, we wouldn't, make this very difficult for the typical beginner user.
Thanks, Mochi. I hope the same. Just to add on top of what you said, from the community team, we are always going to be there trying to explain the users how to use it. But first, we need to understand it all, and that's why we do this kind of events. So thanks again, Mochi, and thanks for the user. I will spell the name wrongly, so I don't want to get embarrassed. So thanks the user for the question. Let's continue. DP Carib, this is one of the greatest PancakeSwap gamers we have. His question is, how about migrations from V2 or V3? Will there be an automatic process? Will there be a migration? What can you tell us, Mochi?
Sure. So with V2 to V3's upgrade, Carib, if you were there when there was the migration, we had a front-end interface to help you take out your liquidity at V2, provide instructions on how to provide liquidity on V3. And so there was a kind of process or interface for you to migrate. The reason why we didn't migrate liquidity from V2 to V3 for users is, first of all, we've designed it such that we cannot take user funds, and this is one of the long-standing principles in AMM DeFi, which is that users manage their funds, not us. And so what we will do is provide another interface if you choose to migrate from V3 to V4. However, that being said, unlike the migration from V2 to V3, we don't think it is necessary for users to quickly move to V4. A lot of V4's functionalities that we talk about today, right, hooks and things like limit orders, stop orders. These are things that currently don't really exist in the market. And so the transition from V3 to V4, I expect to be more gradual. I don't think users are should feel the need to migrate on day one. A lot of these functionalities will be tested over time, and a lot of the for example, the function that we're building on to overcome impermanent loss is something that people will get more comfortable as some liquidity in the pool proves that it is in fact earning more fees than what V3 is currently offering. So there is no need to feel the need to use our tool to help to migrate on day one. We will provide that tool, but feel free to migrate as and when you're comfortable. So it is not fully automated, to answer your question, because we are going to provide the step-by-step migration steps to you as a user. But definitely there will be a tool that helps you migrate if you feel ready and are ready to proceed with migration.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks for the question. I also see the user already. Thank you. So yeah, let's continue. I see another one. It goes like, will before from Martin Lazarov. Thanks for the question. First, will before changes decrease the relevance of bright markets, and if more fees will be provided to LPs and less cake given to them, will bright markets become less useful? I think it's a really good question.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, for the question. So this is something that we were already thinking about when we were releasing V Cake last year, and also building the bright market on top. So I think high level, this is how I think about it. So first of all, the answer to your question is no, it does not decrease the relevance of bright markets. If you follow how PancakeSwap has been managing cake emissions, we like to bucket cake emissions into core pools and non-core pools. So core pools are pools like BTC, Ethereum, stable coin pools, where nobody's going to be bribing them, because these are not owned by projects that go around handing out BTC or ETH to bribe pools. So for V4, with increased impermanent loss protection, we do think most of the reduction of cake emissions will go to core pools, simply because of the mechanism that we are designing. And so what it means is that non-core pools, they will continue to receive, relatively high levels of emission. And I think the improvements in V4 will apply not as much to them. And so a very healthy level of emissions will still go to them. And as you will know, for non-core pools, these are the protocols that are going on to, StakeDAO or CakePie, and directly bribing either VE Cake holders, which you could then vote for their pools via VE Cake, for example, on StakeDAO, or on CakePie. These are the ones that are bribing the liquidity pools for that protocol as well. So those pools, because they are non-core pools, they will continue to receive a lot of the cake emissions. Then naturally, projects will continue to engage in the bright markets with them. And there's also the bright market is also focused on that portion. So in V4, I do think bright markets will continue to be very relevant, and the share of emissions that are going to core pools will start to fall. So most of the cake emission reductions and the contribution to cake burn will come from reduced emissions to core pools like BTC, ETH, and stablecoins. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks also, Martin, for the question. And let's go with another one. From Vivendus. So V4 pools aren't retro compatible with V3?
Yeah, thanks, Bibendus, for the question. So I will. So the short answer to this is no, they are not compatible. The longer answer to this is V3 was not built with modular expansion in mind, and so with V3, you could not build hooks into the pools So you could not build impermanent loss protection. You could not build limit orders. You could not build DCA functionality. You can't build any of these functionalities into V3. And so the architecture of V4 is such that a new pool must have a hook deployed at inception. So, for example, if USDC pool that has impermanent loss protection must be added at the point of creation. And so V3, because it's immutable, it cannot be upgraded. We aren't able to just plug V3 into V4 and then start adding hooks to a V3 pool that has already been established. So that's why V3 is not retro-compatible with V4, and that with the new V4, you must migrate to a V4, especially if you are using a hook. In V4, there will be at least one version of a liquidity pool that has no hooks, and if it has no hooks, it is actually exactly the same as V3 if you're using a concentrated liquidity AMM. So other than that specific instance, all other pools with hooks are basically not retro-compatible.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks for your question. Okay, let me see if there are more questions. We answer a lot of questions. Thanks, Mochi again. Give me a minute. Okay, I think we have another one from Viventus, and it said something like, "What's the plan for moving cake rewards from V3 to V4?"
Sure. I think talk about it more generally and then use an example to explain how this is planned. So as I mentioned, V4 starts off with the V3 concentrated liquidity AMM and the liquidity book AMM, which in terms of execution capability is quite similar to the V3 AMM. And when I talk about execution capability, I'm saying the ability to execute at similar levels of slippage for big trades, right? So it put in that light, V4 is not a significant upgrade on V3 in terms of capital efficiency, which was the main upgrade when we went from V2 to V3. So therefore, there is no rush to migrate all of the PancakeSwap V3 liquidity to V4. And therefore, in terms of moving cake rewards, we are thinking of doing it more gradually. We do think the primary issue with V3 is around impermanent loss because it already provides very good capital efficiency. So therefore, one of the things that we want to prove in V4 before we start migrating cake rewards to V4 very significantly is to build up some liquidity in V4 with the impermanent loss protection built in as a hook. And then once it's proven to succeed, then we will move cake rewards more aggressively from V3 to V4 so that more liquidity providers can and are attracted to move to the impermanent loss protection pool. So if using the kind of impermanent loss protection hook as an example, how we are planning to move cake rewards is we are probably going to do it gradually at first. So maybe some rewards, maybe 10-20% will move from V3 to V4. And then we'll let V4's pools with hooks run for a while to prove that V4's hooks are executing either complex functionality better than V3 or are providing better stats like a better impermanent loss protection relative to V3. Then we will start shifting the remaining 70-80% more aggressively towards V4. And so generally the plan is see things happen in V4, prove that it works, then migrate rewards so that users understand that the kitchen sees that the results have proven itself and that it is better to move from V3 to V4. That's the kind of high level plan of how we're approaching this issue.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks. I think gradually is the best word to to say. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and that question went from Kito Samuel, and it says something like the mechanism of V4 what impact does it have on VE cake? Will there reduction in its emissions?
Hey, Keto Samuel, thanks for the question. So, the short answer to your question is there will almost certainly be reduction in emissions once V4 is running for a little while. Specifically, how we think this will happen is this. So today, after all the different reductions that we've done, the PancakeSwap protocol is emitting about 1 cake per block. So that translates to be about 29,000 cake per day. Now, this pool of 1 cake per block is shared with a number of things. One is the products are using it, like lottery. Then a big part of this is going to liquidity providers, so that's where the farms are, and the cake stakers. So all these parties are sharing this 1 cake per block right now. Now, as I mentioned previously, for PancakeSwap V4, we are looking to improve the environment for liquidity providers so that we can reduce the amount of kick emissions going to liquidity providers so that they are profitable. They don't need us to be incentivizing them to cover their impermanent loss. Therefore, we now have space to reduce kick emissions. So if you think about what I mentioned just now, there are 3 categories of emissions. It's 3 categories of products that are taking cake emissions. One is products, one is liquidity providers, and one are cake stakers. So cake stakers are VE cake. And what I mentioned that we were looking to reduce is for liquidity providers. So for VE cake, I think the relative proportion of cake that is going to VE cake will increase because the large amount of reductions will probably come from subsidizing liquidity providers on PancakeSwap. So there will be reduction in emissions because we are targeting to remove more subsidies on liquidity providers, but we are not trying to do the same for cake stakers. So for VE cake, I do think that it will continue to enjoy similar levels of returns. And I think as I was answering your previous question, we are not trying to reduce emissions to altcoin pairs. So for bribes and being paid as a VE cake provider to vote on gauges, that is likely going to stay more or less the same as well. So largely what you will see is less cake emitted, but really nothing that affects VE cake stakers. So sorry, it was a bit of a long answer, but hopefully that gives you a bit more detail as to how we are thinking about this.
Thanks, Mochi. Thanks, and thanks, Keto, for your question. I think you have been answering questions for more than 1 hour. I can't recall when was the last time you answered so many questions. So I want to ask to say thank you again, and thanks for all the community members who stay up for this AMA. And I think it's time to wrap up. Remember, there will be a recap, I think, tomorrow to address all these questions, also the live ones. And as Eos mentioned, in around 1 hour, we are going to do our weekly pancake talks. Not as high level as these questions, I have to say, since I'm running that and I don't have a super deep knowledge than Mochi has, but we are going to cover a little bit more of V4 for dummies for everyone who wants to join, and also checks how the market is going. Yeah, anything you want to say before we wrap up, Mochi?
Yes. So thanks a lot for all the detailed questions. I know some of it is very very specific on V4, but I'm really happy that the community members are very interested in the details of V4. Again, we are still working on details, so not all of this what I've discussed today is not the full and final form, but as we come to Q3 to deploying V4, we'll definitely be announcing more details. So keep up with us, and we'll put out as much information as we can when we are ready. Thanks again for coming today.
Thanks, Mochi. Remember, we have you can encounter us on our social channels: Telegram, Discord, Reddit. Sorry. We have also a new before channel in Discord for devs. In case you want to start building on us, there you will have an answer and a guide there to start doing it. Stay safe. Remember, the market is still is always not easy for us for the retails we can sell. And have a nice rest of the day, rest of the night, rest of the day. Thanks for tuning in, and let's gather together in the next PancakeSwap AMA. Bye bye.